If AI is trained on us and our data, how can it ever surpass us?
At a most simplistic level, I think it's a little bit like student and teacher.
In terms of healthcare, the power of AI is absolutely huge. It's not just one thing. There is an absolutely enormous amount of possibility out there.
There's no point trying to suggest that Google's, the OpenAIs, the Microsoft are going to become irrelevant overnight.
We're constantly told that we've entered the age of AI.
But what does that actually mean, and what really matters beyond the hype?
In this series, we look past the noise to explore the ideas, decisions, and technologies that are shaping how we live, work, and think.
From the stories that don't always make the headlines to the systems, founders, and researchers building the tech that could define our future.
If you want to go deeper, stay ahead, and hear the biggest questions about AI tackled by the people in the know, this is for you. I'm Lara Lewington, tech specialist, broadcaster, and journalist.
And I'm Ben Clark, Future Worlds at the University of Southampton, working with researchers and founders to build the next wave of tech.
This is the age of AI. Like any good podcast, we have our Q&A episodes, and this is the first of them. If you have a question for us, drop it into the comments section.
Absolutely. So this is for people who are fascinated by the world of AI, but have got questions that they want to ask. And if Lara and I don't know the answers to them, we have got a network of incredibly talented planet brain engineers and scientists working in AI, and we will be reaching into that network to bring you the latest answers to your questions.
And to get us started this week, we are talking about some of the biggest questions that exist in AI right now.
So the first one we've got is this. I'm thinking about starting an AI startup company, but with big tech dominating, is there still room for startups? Well, I guess that one's for me.
It definitely is. And it's a really important question. We got the foundation models coming out of the US, but a lot's happening here.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, that big tech is dominating in this space, and there's no point trying to deny it. There's no point trying to suggest that somehow the Googles, the OpenAIs, the Microsoft are going to become irrelevant overnight, and that's not going to happen. But similarly, that doesn't mean that there isn't an incredibly valuable and important space for startups. In particular, a lot of startups just take a different approach on the market. So they think differently. They've got a different perspective. They're willing to try a different model, a different approach. And it's something that the big tech companies, because of how they're set up, because of their risk profile, because of how they're making money, are invested in a particular way of doing it. And so it wouldn't make sense for the big tech company to do it in that way. And so you will have thousands of AI startups experimenting in a whole load of different ways. Lots of them won't work, but some of them will, and some of them will be breakout successes that over the next few years suddenly we'll find that have subverted a whole industry, have completely changed the way that we work. And we've never heard of them now, but in a few years' time, they'll be household names. What we're also seeing is AI is moving so quickly. The tools that are available to developers and to non-technical people now are orders of magnitude better than they were even just last year or the year before. And so more and more people are now able to launch an AI startup, even if they don't have a coding background, even if they're not a developer themselves. Vibe coding is becoming so capable that it means domain experts can, with the knowledge they have of their domain, their particular expertise, they can transfer that into an AI platform far more easily than they were able to just recently. And that is moving forward so quickly. The big tech companies, their expertise is the large infrastructure, the large models, the foundational models. They don't have the domain expertise in all those different areas. What we're going to see is a whole plethora of startups with that domain expertise, maybe localizing some of the tools that the large language models make available, but then they will do it to service, whether it's in healthcare, whether it's in medicine, whether it's in drug discovery, or whether it's in construction, any number of different sectors. I think we've got some really exciting times ahead.
Yeah, so the big tech companies are helping make it possible. And of course, some of those startups end up selling to the big tech companies.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the classic question that investors ask. Well, there's two. One is, surely Google would be doing that, or why is Google not doing that? Yeah. And the startup has got to have an answer for why not. And then secondly, it is, how are you going to exit to Google or to Microsoft or to OpenAI? It is the obvious route that so many startups go.
All we seem to hear is the fear, where does AI hold the greatest promise? Now, I have been asked time and time again, should I be scared? Often with no context, whether it's at a friend's dinner party or whether it's in a TV interview, it's always the question I get asked. And of course, there is plenty that we can be scared of. There's a massive problem with disinformation, bias, the risk of cyber war, all of that exists. But there are also many reasons why we built this thing. And doing this podcast gives us a great opportunity to be able to talk about some of those positives. And you're an AI optimist, aren't you?
I firmly believe that, yes, there are risks. Yes, there are threats. There are many things that we could be worried about, as there is in just the whole of life. But I think you have to be an optimist that says, yes, there are threats, but there are also good people doing good things with the tools that are available. And now more than ever, we need great people with these great tools doing great things. They can be directly countering the threats that are there. So just as you can use AI for harm, you can use AI to counter that harm, but also you can use AI for so many great things. And that's the exciting area.
Well, it really is. And those possibilities are huge, whether it's in democratising education, what we can do for the planet. And I know there's a separate conversation to be had about potential damage to the planet with all the data centres. That's for another day. But for me personally, what's going on in healthcare is what really, really excites me. The power is incredible. And this is something which, at a personal level, through what we can understand, even just going to something as basic as activity tracking, it's all about patterns. It's about what AI can understand from our patterns, knowing our baseline, knowing when something goes out of kilter. There are numerous people who've discovered they have heart conditions, even cancer or lupus episodes, through the data on their wearables, triggering the idea that something's amiss. And these aren't medical devices. They're not for diagnosis, but they're prompting someone to go to a doctor. So AI is there in the background in so much. But in terms of healthcare, the power of AI is absolutely huge. And of course, it's not just one thing. It can be that extra pair of eyes on a scan looking for tumours. It can be helping a doctor take notes to allow them to have the more human experience. Or it could be an AI system analysing micro movements in facial pattern to quantify depression. That's happening now in the NHS in perinatal women. So there is an absolutely enormous amount of possibility out there. What AI can do through looking at patterns and recognising things that have never been seen before. Maybe it's impact of air quality or your blood sugar patterns on disease risk, microbiome, so much that we are at the beginning of learning, but we're heading towards a future where we can pull all of that data together, understand more about risk, so we're screening people better at the right point, understand more about disease incidence, where it's happening, what's causing it, how we can treat it, and from there being able to personalise treatment. So there's incredible promise.
So you've written a book on this recently.
Oh yes, in writing Hacking Humanity, I have been living and breathing the world of health tech. I learned that, having spoken to a lot of people all over the world, absolute leaders in the field, and I'm neither a doctor nor a scientist, but I spoke to many of the world leaders out there, and everybody agreed with the direction of travel here, that this isn't about one technology. It's not about one specific type of illness. It's actually a direction of travel for a better future for health, because we'll understand more. We'll be able to truly grasp risk. We'll know who we're screening when. We'll be able to treat people better and more kindly. And let's not get caught up in all wild ideas of longevity, which is another thing going on right now. This isn't about living to wild old ages. We have a real problem that we have a huge gap between health span, the healthy years of our lives, and lifespan. In England, a 25% difference for women, for men, 20%. And when you're looking at a fifth or a quarter of your life being spent in poor health, that's clearly a problem. And AI has the power to be able to do something about that. And the area that appears to have the biggest potential for change is cancer. And this is widely agreed on because there are so many variables. There's the genetics of the tumour, the genetics of the patient, the location of the tumour. There's also the stage of the cancer. And the more we understand about that, the more we can understand about treating things more kindly. We'll also be able to screen populations better. Genomics England's doing some really interesting research, and not just looking at the risk of disease for someone, but the risk of disease when. Why are some people getting these cancers in their 30s and 40s? And this is all powered by AI. AI in healthcare is nothing new, been around since the 1970s in some form. But now what we can do with it is so incredibly powerful. So I think writing the book, I just really felt this is a very clear direction of travel. This is what everybody working within health and healthcare can see. And yes, there are many questions over how we feel about handing our data over. And there are many things that people can raise over their concerns, worries, health equity, all of that. But actually, done right, there's great power here to better healthcare for everyone.
I certainly echo exactly that from my vantage point of supporting startups at the very beginning of their journey. More and more of the startups that we're seeing and that we're supporting and accelerating out of universities are tackling big healthcare problems, that they've got access to huge data sets, whether it's in the NHS or within the research environment, and applying machine learning to those large data sets. They're able to so rapidly accelerate some of their learning for their background research, but then also turning that into products and tools and services that can make an incredible difference. Just the speed at which we can bring those services to market.
Even if you're talking clinical trials, things that take a long time, where AI is being used to better choose the candidates for those trials. Diversity is so important, and it's been a huge problem up to now. And although bias is an issue within AI also gives us the ability to be able to fix those biases by doing things right where we kick off a new AI system.
Absolutely. And one of the startups pitching at our demo day on the 4th of March is trying to do exactly that,
Nice
using
segue.
AI to fix bias in the recruitment for clinical trials.
Yeah, there's a lot that can be done, used right. And of course, this is the challenge. Our next question, if AI is trained on us and our data, how can it ever surpass us?
What a big question, a huge question. I mean, at a most simplistic level, I think it's a little bit like student and teacher. So you have a teacher who exchanges their knowledge and passes it on to a student. Does that mean that the student can never surpass the teacher? Does it mean that the student is always going to be in the shadow of the teacher? No, surely not. The teacher can train, can give the tools that then enable the student to go on a journey that then goes on and eclipses. And I think we see the same with AI, that the human can train an AI with a whole range of data, but that AI is then able to compute vastly more data than we are able to compute. The sheer magnitude and scale of the computations that it can do mean that it is able to process that data so much more quickly and come to conclusions that much more quickly. And so used effectively, of course, it means that in particular areas, it already is massively surpassing what we're able to do at a human level. Does that mean that in an all-encompassing way that AI then eclipses humanity? Not at all. It's still a complement to humanity, but it does incredibly accelerate some of our capabilities.
Of course, machines haven't had the experiences that humans have. It's not the same. But a machine can be an expert in lots of different things. So pulling together all of that power and being able to look at patterns of one thing next to patterns of another, that could be air quality and incidence of heart disease, we start to understand things in a way that we couldn't before. So we are learning a lot more as a result of that, because there's only so far that a human can take that journey. So the knowledge that the world is going to glean will be incredible, and the machines will keep on learning. And of course, we want to still maintain some element of control there.
Yeah. I mean, it strikes me that it's both of these questions are about fear and will AI surpass us? And I think both of those are coming from this kind of this fear perspective of how are we going to lose control? What are we going to lose to AI? What have we got to worry about? And of course, there are things that we need to be concerned about. We need to be responsible in how AI is developed. It is incredibly powerful, immensely powerful. But we can also start from that optimistic position of saying, what's the capability that AI can unlock? How can AI unlock our creativity? How can it unlock our ability to solve these problems? And looked at it in that vein, there's just so much possibility. And I think it does so much depend on the mindset that you apply to the question.
It does. I heard someone refer to this as losers' questions, that it was the wrong way to approach the question.
Absolutely.
It's the wrong way to approach the situation, because in some ways, AI can make all of us good at anything. I'm not creative. I can't draw anything. I can't design anything. The other day I needed to design a logo, so I went into a large language model, got it to help me write a good prompt, went into Nano Banana and got it to create a picture. And you can go through this process and create something you otherwise wouldn't be able to. But I also think it's important to manage our expectations on what we can do. professional prompt engineers and people using AI in very professional setups are creating incredible things. We can go so far ourselves and we can do things that are incredibly surprising. But actually, there are also real limitations. You can get yourself in a real loop where you're trying to design a party invite for your child, and then you want to keep on tweaking bits, you want to change the date, suddenly it becomes gibberish, and the letters don't look like letters anymore. And we can't obviously appear too spoilt about where we've got to because it is incredible, but there are also limitations. You can get yourself in that really frustrating cycle. I spent 2 days making a PDF with AI. It would have taken me 2 hours to have done it by myself. It's a bit like the throwing good money on bad. You know you shouldn't and you should stop. Yet you've invested this time in doing something, so you want to keep going.
Invested. You're going to keep on going and keep on going.
And you're determined you can beat this, but you can't beat AI when it comes to doing that. And you're trying to create the PDF, for example, in this instance, and it keeps on having a conversation with me and not giving me the PDF. And I'm like, no, this is about making the PDF. I'm not just having a chat about the PDF, and you sometimes have to give up. Yeah. You sometimes have to give up and start again.
Absolutely. And that seems like a great segue for some of the amazing things or the wacky things that you can do with AI. The people that are willing to go into that rabbit hole and try to discover how can they use video generation within AI to do weird and wonderful things.
Well, of course, right now, it's the moment of talking about the Beckhams. About the dance, the infamous dance. So we have seen quite a few AI-generated videos of what took place at the wedding. We've seen David Beckham's face, but not his face because it's actually an AI-generated, looks like David Beckham face. We've seen Victoria Beckham spinning on her head, doing all sorts of crazy moves. But these videos, of course, look incredibly convincing. We have moved past the days of, we can spot it's AI because the gravity's not quite right or there's an extra finger. These videos are convincing, but in this context, obviously people weren't thinking they were real. What did you make of them?
I mean, just like funny, obviously. I mean, the drama that's playing out around the Beckhams is, a thing that some people may be fascinated by, others may be completely dismissive of. But just as a microcosm of actually how AI gets used, and it's gone from just kind of one-liner comments that people have been sharing to then photoshopped images that people would share to now seemingly real life videos that people are sharing, and it's comedic and it's funny. As you say, everyone knows that it's just funny and everyone knows that it's just a parody of a situation. But of course it points to one of the risks of that technology, that of course you can make these videos look so lifelike that then if you're using it in a different way, if you're using it in a way that does purport to be real life and you're putting words in someone's mouth, or you're putting up imagery or videos that people haven't consented to and are misleading, then obviously that's something that people should be worried about.
Absolutely. And this was something that was being talked about in earlier days of AI regulation. I remember talking to Professor Stuart Russell, and he was discussing the idea of how it should be illegal to recreate any specific person with AI. And that seemed like a sensible idea at the time, but this has all moved so fast that that's not what we're seeing the reality being. And so, even this you could see as a sort of negative thing, although for most people they are viewing it as a harmless, silly video. But the real danger lies in when people are coming away believing something happened that didn't. And as we head to a future where mainstream media is getting fewer viewers and listeners, and more people are going to more different places, for example, listening to podcasts, we really need to know what we can trust and what truth is, and how do we do that? How do we understand the sourcing? And there are various conversations about being able to watermark videos so we know it's AI generated, and at that point we actually start to question, well, what was the intention of it? Who made it? But bad actors aren't going to do what they should do for a start, so that's not going to be labelled on the video. But also, how does this really play out? People are scrolling at great speed. You look at the data on what people are doing with social media. They're not carrying out any great analysis of where that post came from, where that video was created. Yeah, you look at who posted it. But this is actually a really complex problem longer term, because we don't want to end up not trusting anything because we don't know which things we should question.
Yeah, absolutely. But for today, to know that Victoria Beckham can do a Matrix-like 360-degree flip.
It's very impressive.
And the dress doesn't even budge out of of position is good to know.
Yeah, that's all we needed to know this week, really,
Absolutely.
wasn't it?
Yeah, that's the key headline to take from this. And on that note, it's the end of today's episode.
Yes, do like, do subscribe, and do send us your questions ready for our next Q&A in a fortnight. Thank you for watching and listening.
Thank you.
Bye.